We don't have a CBA, but we have a schedule. That has been the talk of the town in the WNBA, a topic that we will get to during our Court Vision segment. But first, welcome to the 9 Sports Podcast, Women's Basketball Edition. I'm Jackie Powell.
And I'm Howard Megdal.
We are your hosts on this journey, and we are going to be bringing you high-level women's basketball analysis, news, some nuanced level thinking, or maybe, as Howard likes to say, some gray area type thinking.
I do like to say that.
We are still looking for a sponsor. Any gray products that would like to sponsor a segment?
Or even just for men, you know, the formerly gray turning brown, right? It was good enough for Keith Hernandez, Walt Frazier.
Good enough for the 9 Sports Podcast.
Yeah, but maybe just for men is not the podcast, not the sponsor for us.
Right. Well, there are other gray things out there.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Ellie the elephant is gray. But anyway, before we talk about the WNBA schedule, Howard and I were on the scene in Newark at the Prudential Center earlier this week at the Coretta Scott King Classic. And we got to take a look at 4 NCAA tournament teams and I think I feel pretty confident saying that these 4 are tournament teams.
Oh, yeah. Matthew Walter, our bracketologist, has all 4 in the tournament and obviously very high seeded.
And we saw TCU, Ohio State, Vanderbilt, and Michigan earlier this week. So for our top story, or as we call it here, number 1 at the 9, Howard, I'm going to put you on the clock here. Now, Howard has our top story of the week, number 1 at the 9. So, Howard, we're going to put you on the clock.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the challenge.
And go.
There were 4 critical players you're going to need to know in March that we saw in Newark. And I'm going to take you through top line on each of them, and then we're going to talk about them as we go. Olivia Miles, TCU, you know all about her. We've got to talk about her passing specifically and her defense specifically. Elsa Lemmilä is someone you may not know out of Ohio State, an incredibly talented center. Jackie had a chance to catch up with her one-on-one. Over at Vanderbilt, Justine Pissott, New Jersey's own. We're going to need to talk about Justine and her development, and Brooke Daniels at Michigan. Not the first player you talk about, not the second player you talk about, but instrumental. We talked to Coach Rico about why.
Well done, with 2 seconds remaining.
2 seconds to go.
2 seconds to go. So, yeah, I mean, in this show, yes, we're going to be talking about Olivia Miles, but I think that the beauty of this is we have 3 players that most people really don't know about.
But should. And
now will.
I love it.
So, Howard, with segment 1, let's start to talk about what we saw from TCU and Ohio State. Obviously, this one was TCU got out to an early lead, but then Ohio State roared back and found a way to win at some of the last few moments of this game.
There are 2 elements to this that I think are significant. One stat captures them both. TCU had 20 turnovers. TCU had 20 turnovers. And so what does that mean? That means that Ohio State going up against a team that is among the best under pressure. TCU has played really well breaking the press all season. Ohio State's press is that good for a team that's come together that has a ton of new players, as Kevin McGuff told us in the postgame. And then the other part of this is, what does it say about TCU? Does that make TCU more vulnerable than we otherwise might think, even with the type of top-line talent like Olivia Miles, who is, I will say once again, clearly in my mind going to be drafted in the top 3 in the 2026 WNBA draft, unless I guess there's not a draft or the earth crashes into the sun. I guess those are the 2 caveats I got to do this year. But I want to hear First of all, from Olivia Miles. Oh my God, Jackie, I totally forgot to ask you. Do you know what state Olivia Miles is from? I meant to ask you this.
I know.
Yeah.
It's New Jersey.
Jersey, that's right. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm glad our listeners know that. Let's hear from New Jersey's own Olivia Miles and from head coach Mark Campbell about what we learned on Monday. Olivia, one for you, and Coach, one for you as well. Olivia, just how many friends and family did you have here? And, kind of take me through that experience.
Yeah, I don't even know a lot. I kind of heard them when my name got called in the starting lineups, and that was a really surreal feeling. To know that I have a village behind me means a lot. So I can't wait to go out there and see everyone. So please make your questions quick. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just amazing to be able to, play a game in front of them and then see them after and give all the hugs and kisses to my loved ones.
And then, Coach, just from a turnover perspective, obviously it's what Ohio State does as well as anyone in the country. What do you think about the way you guys handle the pressure, and what can you kind of take away from that?
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job. Coach McGough does an incredible job, and they got a great team, and they do that 2-2-1 to make you uncomfortable. And we had too many unforced turnovers. That's where we'll grow. To play a team like this on a neutral court, you can't have 20 turnovers and give them – and they convert those. They're great at it. They convert those into easy buckets. And so we got to take care of the ball. I think that's an area of growth for our team this season. It got exposed today. And so, like Olivia said, our whole journey, we got 10 new players that are still learning to play together. And this is great game film to go back and study and watch. And our goal is to play our best basketball in March. And we're not there yet. And we still got a lot of basketball to play. But this group's so coachable. They're fun to be around. And this opportunity made us better today.
Interesting stuff from Mark Campbell, I think. And again, just to kind of close the book on TCU, Matthew Walter has them as a 2 seed right now in order to be not just a second weekend team, but a third weekend team. This is something they're going to need to clean up.
To be quite honest, I don't see them as a 2 seed, just from watching how they played. And okay, Mark Campbell said, oh yes, there are a lot of new players on this team, but they've got veterans. Their top player is, I believe Olivia Miles is now a graduate student.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's interesting about that is when you flip it over and you think about Ohio State, they sort of have, I guess, an opposite type of story arc here, in that Ohio State started out very shaky. I mean, I saw this team in November against UConn, and I will put the caveat there. A lot of teams get blown out by UConn, but what I remember is they started out strong. They were a good 3-point shooting team. Jelani Gamebridge, obviously stood out, but it was really hard to sort of see what other pieces they had.
Yeah.
But 2 months later, they've improved pretty dramatically. And this was something that Coach Kevin McGuff really stressed. And I asked him, I said, so what are the indicators? What tells you that this group has gotten better? And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Howard, he talked more about the buy-in on the defensive end, which that's how they were able to force all those turnovers. And then part of it was the rebounding.
Yeah, no. And I will just say to that point, how much of this needs to come from further buy-in and being able to break the press for TCU? Well, we're seeing Ohio State able to make the press an absolute weapon for themselves. TCU, by the way, just my final note, you will learn how much they learned from game film on this one on February 15th. They're playing West Virginia, who's as good as they come when it comes to the press. So that's the one I'm looking at. They don't get really tested beyond that when it comes to the defensive end other than that. So that's the one to take a look at. But to your point about Ohio State, critical in a way that goes beyond the stars that we have come to think of is Elsa Lemmilä, who was a revelation. Can you just kind of take me through what you saw from her, both at this level and what she could mean at the next level? And let's hear a little bit from your conversation with her.
Yeah, I mean, she was doing a little bit of everything. I know that's like a basketball cliche, but she was running the floor super hard and just showing how athletic she was. She was scoring, obviously, she was rebounding the ball, and she was passing. And as we know, WNBA talent evaluators, versatility is one of the number one things on their radar. It's sort of either if you're super good at one skill or if you can do a little bit of everything. And so, but not only was she proficient and very good offensively, but defensively, she stood out to us.
Yeah.
The way she was able to protect the rim and use her length as a 6'6" center, I cannot confirm what her wingspan is, but it looks pretty long. So when it comes to Elsa Lemmilä, I crunched some numbers to sort of see, okay, was this one game against TCU a fluke? And so I looked and, including this game against TCU on Monday, the past 8 games, she's been averaging 2.5 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, and 2.9 assists. That's not too shabby. And this is someone who has around 2+ years, if you count sort of the end of this year and then 2 more seasons, to continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line. Multiple WNBA talent evaluators I spoke with about her said she is very much on their radar, not just because of what she is now, but because of how much time she has to become what she will be. So it's really interesting to see. I can't wait. You had such a terrific conversation with her. Make sure you check out our YouTube page, subscribe, where you get all of our reporting over there, live coverage from all of our folks around the country, around the world, covering women's basketball. Subscribe. Make sure you're on our YouTube page for that, along with, of course, us. And speaking of WNBA level talent, I also asked Shay Ralph about Justine Pissott. And I want to take a moment and talk about her, because when we talk about Vanderbilt, one of only 2 teams still undefeated, going along with UConn. And I know I talked to you guys about this a couple of weeks ago, where I said, you need to take them seriously, not as a second weekend team, but as a third weekend team. It goes beyond just Mikayla Blakes, who is, of course, incredible. And I don't mean to take away from her. You'll actually see in Shay's answer, if you go to our YouTube page, where she makes sure to say, oh, yeah, Mikayla's a pro too. It's like, no, I know. We all know Mikayla is a future lottery pick. But here's the thing about Justine Pissott, and if you'll permit me a moment for Toms River's own Justine Pissott. Where is Toms River anyway?
Yep, that's in New Jersey.
It is in New Jersey. Oh my God. That's great. Thank you so much for filling me in on that. Justine went to Tennessee originally and simply couldn't find her way into the rotation. She went to Vanderbilt, and she even acknowledged this. And I love this, the maturity of it. She did not play defense well enough, in her view, last year to stay on the court. In Shay Ralph's view, to stay on the court, despite being an elite shooter, 6'4", with just an incredible wingspan that goes along with it. So what did she do? She got back in the gym this summer. She got really strong. And Justine, who was 6'4", who is not just an elite 3-point shooter. She's making 44.4% of them, but she's taking 7 per game. So both of those things you're looking for from a player you want to play at the next level. She is defending 5s consistently. She is blocking shots. And then the other thing she is doing is she is finding her teammates. Her assist percentage last year, 7.3%, very much like early on Katie Lou Samuelson spot up shooter. She is what Katie Lou became. She is at 16.4 assist percentage here so far in her senior season. So really a fascinating player. Make sure she's on your radar, and make sure also that Brooke Daniels of Michigan is on your radar. Jackie, take me through what you saw from Brooke.
Yeah, it's interesting, Howard. We were watching this Michigan and Vanderbilt game, and, Vanderbilt came in very prepared. They made Silas Swords and Olivia Olson quite uncomfortable in the early goings of this. So essentially it was, okay, who is going to step up now that the stars have been, to a degree, neutralized? Yeah. And all of a sudden we see this tiny guard, maybe like, what did Kim Barnes-Rico say? She 5'7"?
5'7". That's what she said. She called her 5'7".
I don't know. Do you think she's a little smaller than that? I don't know. But
I think if she's listed at 5'7", I'm not going to push it. But she's not much taller than 5'7". I'll put it that way.
Right. And so Brooke Daniels, she had over double digits. So she had 10 rebounds against Vanderbilt. And she was the smallest player on the court. Yeah. 6 of those 10 rebounds were offensive rebounds. And it wasn't like she was just rebounding the ball. This was a player who was put in the game specifically to neutralize Mikayla Blakes. Mm-hmm. And this isn't her first rodeo doing this either. I mean, Blakes had a good game, but she didn't have a great game. You know, she had her points, she scored in double digits, but she wasn't efficient and she had a negative plus minus.
Did end up with 8 assists, I will say. So she did rechannel it. But that's part of the idea, is that you want to try and limit what she's able to. If you hold her under 20, you've really done your job. And Brooke Daniels did.
And so Brooke Daniels, this isn't her first rodeo guarding the opponent's best player. She did something very similar against Hannah Hidalgo earlier this season. Also in that game, she notched double-digit rebounds once again. She's done this 3 times this season, where probably the smallest player on the court is getting to double-digit rebounds. And so it was really interesting to hear her speak and talk about how she prepares defensively. I mean, I asked her to take me through that. And by the way, we're going to have an interview with Kim Barnes-Rico talking about Brooke Daniels' impact. That will be on our YouTube page. Also, all of these interviews will be linked in our description of this episode. So those links will be readily available. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Brooke Daniels is talking about how she believes she is one of the best defenders in the country. And
I don't know how you could argue it.
She said it with a lot of confidence. But at the same time, to me, it didn't sound like arrogance. I mean, this is a player who Kim Barnes-Rico is relying upon to be a leader on this team. This is Michigan's upperclassmen. You know, you've got these star sophomores, and then you have Brooke Daniels, who has experience as an upperclassman. She transferred to Michigan, I believe, from Oakland University, a smaller university in Michigan. But this is sort of how Michigan is trying to compensate for their lack of experience and upperclassmen leadership.
And how much are they trying to compensate? To your point, Jackie, you caught this, which is really true. The last 5 games, she's north of 30 minutes per game, and she hadn't done that at all this year. So I know that framed the way you started to ask KBA about it. Really, really worth your time. So again, so much that we loved in Newark, beyond just, of course, the great Hobby's Delicatessen, an institution, fantastic matzo ball soup. Make sure you don't miss it. Go to the Coretta Scott King Classic next year. I mean, it's a great event. We've covered both of them. We are going to cover next year's. I can't recommend it highly enough. Really good basketball. Prudential Center is terrific. And yes, also get the Knish while you're at Hobbies. But let's talk about the big news of the WNBA schedule release, very specifically what it means. And so, Jackie, can you just kind of take us through some of the biggest takeaways? Because again, some people were confused. How is that even possible? There's not a new collective bargaining agreement.
Well, so what we heard from people who are familiar is that technically, under the period of status quo, the league is able to set a schedule. And part of why this is able to happen is also because the league does not want to stretch the season longer than 44 games. So that also falls underneath the rules of the road in the 2020 CBA. So that's sort of how they're able to do it, because they're not expanding the season. This still falls in the rules of the technically current CBA, the 2020 CBA.
It all makes sense. It's interesting because I wrote about this over at Basketball Wednesday. We're in a scenario right now where the time where I said, oh, the deadlines aren't really deadlines, that's passed. We're almost at February. Arenas need to be secured. Television schedules and windows need to be secured. The money that everyone wants divided up in different ways, but both are going after what is a bigger pot. Well, that pot gets smaller the longer that this drags on. But you had a really interesting observation. It felt like a singularly Jackie Powell moment. We saw Cathy Engelbert at the Coretta Scott King Classic, and she was there just to watch us, to observe, enjoy the games. But what did you see Cathy doing, and how did it stand out to you?
Yeah, well, so we were on press row, and I took out my binoculars and I was looking around, and because that's something that I do. If you know me, that's what I do.
She is the rear window of current WNBA writers.
And so,
no, that's not too obscure. That's okay. If it's
no, that's good. That's
a classic, Jimmy Stewart.
Classic movie, of course.
No, go on.
That's a good reference. That's quite a compliment.
It's a good comp.
Yes. And so I'm looking around. I see a familiar face. I see Cathy Engelbert. She's like in all blue. She was wearing fantastic jeans. Like her fashion choice was A+. And so I said that I was on the Cathy cam throughout the afternoon because she came in for the second game, the Vanderbilt and Michigan game. And so I watched her during a stoppage period, and she went up to one of the officials of this game, a longtime official in the WNBA who also supplements her income, obviously, by doing college games as well. And I'm just watching them interact. And then I'm watching her facial expression. It goes from a smile to some sort of concern. And so obviously there's a reason for that concern. This is a woman employed by the WNBA who doesn't really know if there's going to be a season and if she's going to have a job. And I was able to do a little bit of lip wording, and Cathy was trying to reassure her that this was going to get fixed, or that something was going to get fixed. But what else would be getting fixed right now? And so this all reminded me of the fact that these CBA negotiations are not just about the WNBA's very wealthy owners and also the NBA's very wealthy owners. This also isn't just about the players. There are a lot of people, thousands, you could argue, I think, Howard, right?
Absolutely.
Thousands of people that could be impacted by a work stoppage and that are probably very anxious, very concerned about how they're going to make their own ends meet. It
is very much time for so many people involved to find a resolution here. And I say that not as it is time for the players to give more or it is time for the league to give more, but as people who care about this space, there is clearly going to be emerging and continuing negative ramifications the longer that this goes on. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
Janae, sorry to interrupt, but
please.
Janae Agumake was talking about this, and she was like, this to me feels like the world's longest staring contest. And I thought that was a great way to sum up the stalemate and what's going on. Like, which side is going to blink first? Which side is going to put their pride aside and say, okay, there is a greater picture at stake here. There are a lot of people potentially going to be impacted by this.
Leave it to Shanae to get it right. There's a reason why she was always a go-to quote when she was in the league and is doing great work, obviously, on TV now. Well, much more to come on this, much more next week. We will give you a lot to get ready for when it comes to Unrivaled, which is coming to Philadelphia, which is a city directly neighboring what state? I can't. It's
New Jersey.
That's right. Now, we can't claim Philly itself, but we can claim bridges that go directly into New Jersey. Until then, I am Howard Megdal.
And I'm Jackie Powell.
Wishing all of you staying safe. If you've got winter weather coming, we'll see you next week.